Very good. Well, thank you all very much for being here. As you know, we had a listening post today with our Republican Party. We're having a GOP project, a Growth and Opportunity Project. So it's been a great time of listening, and I'm just going to turn this over to Reince Priebus, our national chair. We're thrilled to have Reince here.
Thank you, Tamara, and AJ and Tamara and Steve are doing a great job here in Iowa. Obviously, we got a great relationship here in Iowa, and I was spending a lot of time here, going about every victory center there is in Iowa, and being kind of a neighbor to your northeast. I'm happy to be here. I got to feel a little cold again today, which is nice. Look, this is important stuff. Listening to grassroots activists across this country, learning what we need to be doing better. No better place than Iowa to figure that out, right? I mean, I don't know if there's a more grassroots place to talk to people that work in the grassroots here in Iowa to determine what are some of the things that we could be doing better. What are some of the things that we could be doing better on messaging? What are some of the things that we can be doing better on mechanics? Those are the things that we're talking about across the country. Some of you know we're going to be issuing a report on recommendations to the Republican Party on March 18th. We're going to be following that up with specific details as to what our plans are going to call for in becoming a bigger party, a party that has more voters, a party that's more dynamic in the future. And so we're excited to be here. We didn't get to spend as much time as we wanted to based on some weather problems back east, but it was still a great opportunity to talk here and to honor the people here in Iowa and our party that have worked so hard. So with that, I want to take a few questions.
Were there any new prescriptions offered today or more the same?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, I think that in Iowa, we have a liberty movement that we need to grow, and we need to welcome in our party. It's a growing piece of our party. Constitutional Republicans, Liberty Republicans is a big piece of a growing party that's young, that cares about issues like freedom, the Constitution, and obviously there's a chord here that I think we need to grow and welcome into our party. And so that was clearly an issue here today, and part of the reason why I wanted to come here. But it's also a call for our party to be more of a year-round operation. That we can't just show up in Iowa 6 months before a presidential election and expect to compete with an Obama campaign that's here year after year after year with hundreds of people. So it's a recognition that we're in the world of permanent politics, and that it's something that, quite frankly, our party's been slow to get to because we really don't like politics as a vocation as a party. It's something we resist generally as a party, and it's got to come to an end. If we want to compete at a granular, person-to-person, heart-to-heart level, we've got to be here all the time.
How is the Rand Paul filibuster? Is it energized people? Did you find people kind of excited?
Listen, I think it was completely awesome. I was excited about it myself. I couldn't go to bed. I'm still excited about it. You know what I'm excited about? I think our party needs some unity sometimes. And it's not easy not having the White House. And sometimes you've got to scrap and claw for issues that can unify a party. Now, that's not total unity, but this was a great issue in standing up against the president, asking some simple, important questions, and I was happy to see so many other Republican senators support Senator Paul.
What about moderating the message? Ken Mehlman was here several weeks ago saying it was time to moderate the party's message, especially on same-sex marriage.
I don't think our platform is the issue. I think a lot of times it's some of these biologically stupid things that people say, that I believe caused a lot of the problems. Look, I thought that the Democrats played an inside straight. I mean, they talked about a war on women that didn't exist. It was not working. And then Aiken comes along and they draw a great card on the river. And suddenly they've got a caricature that they're trying to prove nationwide. Look, I did 280, I think, TV appearances last year. I bet other than talking about Aiken and the fact that he needed to get out of the race, there weren't too many other times that I talked about some of those issues. The fact of the matter is, I think that it goes down to candidate training, and I also think that, you got to vet candidates. I think it's important, and there's no better vetting state in the country than Iowa.
So how do you get off the mat, so to speak, and rebound in 2016?
Well, for one thing, you got to start anew. At some point, you got to quit looking at the past and start looking to the future. I think it's pretty clear we need to be a big party. We need to be a an all-year-round party. I think that we need to look at our mechanics, our digital, our data. We're going to have to raise a whole lot of money. We're going to set standards for state parties across America that they need to hit. And then we need to be able to show to our grassroots and our donors that even when we hit those standards and those measures of success, it's going to help us move the dial in presidential years. Because let's face it, I mean, we haven't won a decisive race, really decisive presidential race in 24 years. This didn't just happen. This has been slowly going on in this country. And as a party, we're going to have to get on with being a party that understands that these relationships can't be built anymore 4 months before an election. You know, we were rebuilding a national party in 2011 when the other side had hundreds of employees. They were spending millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on digital and data and voter outreach. You can't have that happen and expect to compete. Obviously, candidates matter, and that's probably number one. But behind that is an infrastructure that the Republican Party is responsible for, and you can't have one without the other.
Did any discussion, sorry, did any discussion come up about outside influences trying to influence, whether or not Representative King would enter the Senate race here in Iowa, and
No.
that kind of divide and that messaging divide?
No, the U.S. Senate race didn't come up at all. I think it's a good sign that there's so many people that are interested in the Senate race here in Iowa, obviously. And we do, our party does very well in off-year elections. I mean, you see it all over Iowa. I see it all over where I'm from in Wisconsin. We do really well in the off-year. In fact, on an issue-based campaign, you're talking about home in Iowa, we're talking about home in Wisconsin, we do really well. But then, look at Wisconsin. So Walker wins the recall, a massive turnout. And then 4 months later, Romney receives the most votes of any Republican in the history of the state of Wisconsin. And there's 600,000 more people that turn out to vote 4 months later. We need to figure out what is it about those 600,000 more votes or thereabouts. What is it about those voters? What is it that we're not connecting to? And find out everything about that. Because that in and of itself, if we can determine that, is going to help us determine what we need to do to compete in presidential elections.
What did you think about Karl Rove's group saying they're going to target controversial conservatives, and in particular picking out Iowa
I
Congressman
don't know if
Steve
they quite
King?
said it that way, but I understand the premise of your question. What do you think of that? Listen, I think we've got a First Amendment, and anyone can go start a 527, a 501c3, and pay the $500, and if they can go raise the money, they can do it. Obviously, there's a lot of groups out there that are picking winners and losers in primaries, right? It's been happening for a long time. So I think it's anyone can do it. Personally, as an RNC, I don't believe in that. I don't think the party should pick winners and losers in primaries, and I think it's historically, if you look at it, it's a bit of a fool's game because you can't actually predict some of the things that go on, and I think it's difficult to do. Some state parties pick winners and losers at conventions. So I think it's pretty well, it's common practice nowadays in our political system. There's a million groups out there that pick preferences and send out flyers and mailers, and it's up to the people in the primaries to be able to wade through all of the noise. All right. Thank you, guys. God bless you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.